If you're wanting to know what the best IBS diarrhea diet is, that was me as well. I suffered with decades of chronic IBS diarrhea, and now, praise the Lord, I don't. So today I'm going to talk about the diet that I've been eating to heal my gut and how that has cured my chronic diarrhea. Hi, I'm Sue, and I'm on a mission to share this super simple, natural human diet that finally got rid of the chronic diarrhea that's ruined my life for decades. If you have chronic IBS diarrhea, I'm sure you're gonna resonate with my story, so stick around. I always had gut issues right from when I was a kid, and at the time of recording this, I'm a few months off turning 60 years old, so that's a long time. Now, in my late teens and early 20s, I had problems with diarrhea off and on. For me, it was always made worse by stress and anxiety or nerves, but it wasn't too big a deal back then. But by my late 20s, however, it was beginning to become much more of a problem. I had become really unhealthy and overweight, and I was suffering with many health problems. And while that's another story for another day, suffice it to say that I was struggling with a lot of things, and IBS diarrhea was just one of those things. At the time, we were living in a small town in Queensland, Australia. I remember that I was often when we went to visit friends, I'd be anxious because we were going visiting and because I was worried about having to use the bathroom 10 times while I was there. So often I'd have to get hubby to stop the car on the way, and I'd scoot into the bush for a number 2 because there were no public toilets out on those dirt roads. I was always prepared and always had a roll of toilet paper in the car. But what was worse than that, once we were there, I'd often end up having to go to the toilet multiple times, sometimes again and again, just minutes apart. And that made my anxiety way worse, which in turn made the diarrhea worse. There is truly nothing worse than being at someone's place, especially people you don't know very well, and having to go to the toilet 5 times in an hour and then having to make excuses as to why. It must have been something I ate. No kidding. It was just really embarrassing and incredibly stressful. So when I was 30 years old, I made a decision one night and got my shit together, literally. I quit smoking and I started exercising simply because I felt so damn good once the smokes were gone. And I dropped 45 kilos, so that's 100 pounds over 4 years. That's a lot of weight. And during that time, the anxiety and the diarrhea was a whole lot better. I became an exercise junkie, often exercising for 4 to 5 hours a day. And I gradually transitioned to a vegetarian diet over that time without any real conscious decision. It just kind of happened. But then, when I was 35, I started eating a vegan diet. I also moved to the city, got a stressful job and lifestyle, and everything, once again, turned to shit, literally. The weird thing was that somehow I convinced myself during that time that I was healthy, and I was still quite slim, and the health issues I had in my 20s were kind of gone or a lot better, but my digestive system was still a mess and the anxiety was high. And this was all on a diet of healthy fruits and vegetables and grains. So I remained vegan for a couple of years, and then I gradually slipped back into a vegetarian diet. From that point on, though, chronic diarrhea was pretty much my constant companion, a part of my life that I didn't discuss but managed silently on a day-to-day basis. I learned to manage it using homeopathic remedies, activated charcoal, bentonite clay, and starvation. What I mean by that was that often I just wouldn't eat when I had things to do or places to be, especially if it was something that triggered my anxiety. For decades, I managed my life around the diarrhea, only taking jobs where I knew I'd have constant access to a toilet, making excuses for not doing fun things with friends, and keeping all of this inside of me. I didn't talk about it to anyone, not even my family. I made excuses and covered up what was going on with me, pretending that it wasn't a thing, and basically convincing myself and others that I was really healthy. I mean, I looked healthy. I was eating a clean, unprocessed diet, and I was exercising like a mad woman. And so I looked the picture of health for quite a long time, until I didn't. I started eating meat again when I was about 43, but my diet was still very focused on plants. And I continued to transition in and out of a vegan and often raw vegan diet over the years, because raw vegan was the ultimate healthy diet, right? It just didn't make me feel great, and it gave my digestive system a really hard time, but it was healthy. So this was me aged 50, looking younger than my age and looking healthy, travelling around Australia in a camper van and secretly feeling blessed because no matter where we went, we had our toilet with us. When we went to people's houses, in the car park, at the shops, that for me was a weird kind of heaven. But all good things must come to an end, and so did my travelling toilet. We moved back to New Zealand when I was 51. I set up my current business as a natural health practitioner in a building with cheap rent and a whole lot of mould. The mould impacted my health so badly, but I didn't realise that that's what was happening at first. The problems, within 18 months, I had ballooned up to over 100 kilos and my body was a mess. My anxiety and my chronic diarrhea were worse than ever. 4.5 years in the mouldy building saw my immune system almost non-existent, a chronic cough, and me realising that if I didn't do something, I'd not be able to continue working. So I moved my business home at that stage, and I began the process of trying to clean up the mould, strengthen my immune system, and heal my body. In fact, I wasn't even digesting my food. I hadn't been for quite a few years, but that was getting worse. Most of what I ate was passing through me just as chewed up food, so nuts and lettuce and that sort of things, just straight through. My poor body was starving even though I was obese. I was using all the usual strategies to try to create change in my body. I did manage to get my immune system up and going again with the help of a good acupuncturist. I got rid of the chronic cough that I developed from the mould, but the diarrhea was still there and the anxiety was still there big time. I also had no extra energy for exercise, no matter how committed my mind was, and the excess weight wouldn't budge no matter what I did. I tried the raw vegan thing again, the cooked vegan thing again, a few times, but nothing helped. My average trips to the toilet for number twos was probably 20 visits a day, sometimes more, and my OCD tendencies had kicked in big time. It's been a thing on and off over the years for me. I developed this daily ritual in the morning before my first client to stand in the pantry, looking at the shelf, trying to decide what to take to ease the discomfort in both my mind and my bowel. Activated charcoal, often 8 or more capsules a day, homeopathic remedies, IBS spray, rescue remedy, slippery elm, a stress spray with kavakawa and ashwagandha, and intermittent fasting. Once again, starving myself made it a bit less likely that I'd have to keep excusing myself during a treatment to go to the toilet. The stress from all this was massive, and it's no wonder I couldn't lose weight. The cortisol from the constant stress was breaking down my body, and it was aging me fast and undermining my health. I actually wondered how long I could keep going like this. The other health issues began to kick in, probably due to the constant stress that I was putting myself under. I'd already had vertigo off and on for a decade at this point, but then there was more. There was a dizziness, not the vertigo, a different dizziness that occurred almost daily, sometimes multiple times a day, a feeling like I was going to pass out. High blood glucose readings, skin issues, sleep issues, blood pressure problems, a high resting pulse rate, and a whole lot more. I tried going vegan once again and felt worse. They say that it's a sign of madness to keep doing the same thing again and again and expect different results, right? Madness it was. I knew I needed to do something, but I just didn't know what to do. I thought I'd tried everything. If you're enjoying this video, please make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss my future videos, and you'll also help my content to reach others who need it. So my daughter had mentioned the carnivore diet to me a couple of years prior. She'd been thinking about trying it. I, at the time, just dismissed it as absolute madness. An all-meat diet? You've got to be kidding. My entire belief system revolved around a healthy diet being plant-based, and that's how I ate for decades. Organic, superfoods, lots of greens, nuts and seeds. I used plant milks and I grew sprouts, and I frowned at those whose grocery trolleys were devoid of plants. I ate very little processed foods and cooked from scratch always. Almost nothing went into our meals that came in jars or packets. A healthy diet, right? Well, in my desperation, I decided to give keto another go. I played with it a couple of times over the past couple of years, but I decided to give it a good go. It lasted for 2 months and I dropped a bit of weight, but nothing miraculous happened while I was on keto. Nothing changed in my health. However, during that time, I was following Dr. Mindy Pelz. She's a keto doctor on YouTube, and she interviewed Paul Saladino about Carnivore. I thought, I've heard of this Carnivore thing before, and something clicked. Paul's story kind of resonated with me, and so I bought his book and I decided to give this a go and try eating carnivore diet for a month. It was really hard. The mind shift required to stop buying fruits and vegetables, to eat only animal products, to face the prospect of never having ceremonial cacao again. It took a bit of inner fortitude to move past my innate belief system and to do this. But the changes on this way of eating were fast. They were immediate and profound. At least some things changed, and they changed really, really quickly. Things like the rough skin on my hands, keratosis or sunspots, they almost disappeared within the first week or two. The nosebleeds that I'd been getting every day, sometimes multiple times a day, they stopped within a very short time, and the dizzy spells that I'd been getting every day, sometimes multiple times a day, stopped within weeks. The diarrhea improved as well initially, temporarily, but then it got worse. But stay with me. The diarrhea did get better for the first few weeks, but then it got worse. And that's common, even in those without chronic diarrhea or gut issues. But it can be because the gut flora is changing and your body is adapting. The carb-loving bacteria are dying off and your body is adjusting and getting rid of those dead bacteria. So I thought that might be what it was. It usually lasts a couple of weeks. It wasn't that in my case. And to be honest, I had bad diarrhea for months, about 9 months. But the other changes in my body made me know that I was on the right track. The things were getting better. The diarrhea was hard to deal with. It was less manageable than usual. And I had more than one accident. It was incredibly stressful and confusing trying to work out what was happening. I recorded quite a few videos during that time, so you can check those out here and here, and I'll also link to them below this video. But it did come to an end, and I figured out a few things on the way. The reasons in my case were oxalate dumping and histamine intolerance, both of which I'm still working through 15 months into my carnivore journey. But I no longer had diarrhea, and that is such a blessing. The really frustrating thing when I look back is now knowing that when I was in my 40s, so that's over 10 years ago, nearly 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with Graves' disease. I went onto the GAPS diet. At the beginning of that diet, I removed all plants from my diet and I had immediate improvement, but I never considered that they were actually the problem. Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride, who developed the GAPS diet, says in her book that eating fibre when your gut is inflamed is like rubbing steel wool on inflamed skin, and that made sense to me even then. But I only stayed off plants for a few weeks and then gradually reintroduced them and never thought about it again. Imagine how the last decade of my life could have been different if I'd not been so focused on a healthy plant-based diet and continued with animal foods and less fibre. I'd have been healed a long time ago. So if you have chronic diarrhea and you're looking for answers, I can highly recommend giving the carnivore diet a go, even if it sounds mental. And even if your whole belief system revolves around plants being the best diet for humans, just like mine was. You may or may not have months of diarrhea like I did when you start your carnivore journey, if you decide to do that. But if you allow your gut to heal, then you'll have the healthy body and the healthy bowel that you dream of. You simply cannot have good health if your gut and your bowel is unhealthy. It's the cornerstone of a healthy body. It does take time to heal, longer for some of us than others, but in my view, it's so friggin' worth it, because there's nothing more soul-destroying than bad health. And chronic diarrhea is not only inconvenient, but it's a sign that your body is struggling. And for many, it adds stress into daily life that just sucks the joy out of everything. Chronic diarrhea will take you down eventually because of the nutritional deficiencies, and if your gut is irritated, then remember that eating lots of fibre is like rubbing inflamed skin with steel wool. Stamp that image into your mind. It's never going to heal. My body has struggled for decades because of what I was feeding it. Now I'm on a journey to rectify that. Food is what builds your body cell by cell. Give it what it needs, not what has been marketed to you or what you've been told that you should eat or what you've become addicted to. And remember that one decision can literally change your life. If you have questions or comments, please fire away below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you again another day. Goodbye for now.